right, welcome back to another episode of Black Guys on White Movies. I am here, your host, Aaron Covington, along today with
Bernard Harris.
and Noah Mon today. He's working. He's got a gig for the day, so he's out there making money,
Gotta get
making
the
it rain.
peas.
Yeah. Speaking of making money, make sure you like, subscribe, share the podcast
Killer.
because we're not making any. So we could spread the word. Like I said, welcome back. This week we're doing the 1996 supernatural comedy horror film, The Frighteners, to kind of close out our Halloween month, our month of Halloween-related movies, scary movies.
Spooky movies.
Even though we really only did one scary movie, we were too scared to do a bunch of scary movies.
The guys are not. I mean, we're scared to cast. It's all good, man.
You know, it's just not our genre. But there are so many Halloween-related movies, and like The Frighteners here. Well, it was interesting. We talked about like hitting on the character, hitting on the tropes, right? Hitting on the Halloween thing. So we did vampires. We did demons with The Exorcist, devil demons. Then we did witches, Hocus Pocus. And we also hinted at werewolves with Twilight. There was vampires and werewolves, but we didn't do a Twilight movie with the werewolves. It was just the vampires.
And now we have future Halloweens.
Yeah. Next year when we do the Twilight series, one a year maybe. Or maybe not. But this last one is Ghosts. The quintessential Halloween, the easiest costume, you know. The easiest costume to do and the easiest one to mess up. Because you put that white sheet on, it could be something else quickly.
It can go real bad.
But The Frighteners is a classic for a number of reasons. Not all because of how good the movie is.
Right.
Directed by Peter Jackson, co-written with his wife at the time, I believe, or maybe still his wife. Starring Michael J. Fox. Black Movie of the Week. I got two for what will be a pretty clear reason. Because we're talking about Ghost. The first one I thought of was Ghost Dad.
Yeah,
but because of controversy, my second Ghost Black movie is The Preacher's Wife. Ghost Denzel.
Ghost Denzel. And I mean, just switching into the next holiday on the calendar, right? So
that was a
Christmas movie, right? I think
that all happened during Christmas.
I think so, but Ghost, man.
But Ghost.
But he's a ghost.
It's really it's a Christmas comedy drama, but he's a ghost. Ghost Dad doesn't take place on Halloween either. But really it's a forgotten Denzel movie, The Preacher's Wife.
To keep going back to a certain returning thing that we keep coming back to, isn't that a Penny Marshall film?
It is a Penny Marshall film.
Wow. The Marshalls, bro. Everywhere.
Yeah. They were doing good work. But an amazing cast in The Preacher's Wife before we get off of it. Starring Denzel, he's the ghost, seducing the preacher's wife, basically. Okay, it's more nuanced than that. It's a family-friendly film, but super family. This is like PG type of movie. Denzel, Whitney Houston, in one of her like two acting roles. This in The Bodyguard. Courtney B. Vance, Gregory Hines, Jennifer Lewis, Loretta Devine. Incredible.
Definitely.
Lionel Richie is in the movie. Whitney Houston's mom is in the movie. I mean,
it's
incredible class. It's really it's one of those forgotten Black like movies. You know,
I kind of feel like there's a lot of those in the 90s.
Oh, of course. And this is one of them.
For sure.
You
were saying because
I think just because of the tone of it, and Denzel became such a big star for like heavy drama and then later action. This doesn't really fit when you think of his filmography. And Whitney Houston acted so little, and The Bodyguard was so huge that it just dwarfs something like this, you know?
It is interesting that you talk about that. Like there's a Denzel filmography in our minds, and then there's a Disney. There's a Denzel filmography like in reality, and he was in quite a few movies that you would not necessarily expect or really remember from his career.
Right. He's been doing it so long and doing multiple movies a year. Like it would be funny to meet Denzel and be like, "What up? Would you say Denzel?
Disney. What up,
Denzel?
Disney?
What up, Denzel?" He's like, "Son."
Right, exactly. Let me sit you down real quick.
But I think this is like the only really super family movie that he's done. Maybe
Mm, you, yeah, you
everything,
might be right.
everything else is more adult, or his was much heavier subject matter, or biopics, or you know, like Remember the Titans is family fun, but it's a kind of about racism,
Yeah,
which is a harder hitting subject. Is you know, I don't know that The Preacher's Wife is not about. It's obviously not about racism, but
yeah, for sure. It's almost more family than family fun.
yeah.
Remember the Titans.
But back to the Frighteners. Logline. It's kind of a long one on IMDb here. Too long. After a tragic accident that kills his wife, a man discovers he can communicate with the dead, and he uses that gift to con people. Yes, he does. However,
Does
when a demonic spirit appears, he may be the only one who can stop it from killing the living and the dead. Ooh,
that last piece is kind of a sick turn though,
yeah.
and the dead. You know what I mean?
Stop it from killing the living and the dead because he's friends with the ghosts. But this demonic spirit can kill humans and also has a scythe that can send ghosts to the actual afterlife. Just the trope of ghosts. They're on Earth, wandering Earth, and they need to like die a second time. They need to like be sent to whatever the afterlife is. So it's playing off
Yeah,
of that trope.
yeah. Did in this movie I can't remember. Did the ghost that this I'm gonna just call him Grim Reaper, right? He's a ghost, but he
Yeah,
pretends to be the Grim Reaper. So I'm gonna keep it simple.
yeah. They
But
call
like
him that in some of the other stuff too. So yeah.
okay, so like, does the ghosts that are killed by this Grim Reaper, do they get to go? Do they get to ascend, or are they just like into nothingness? Did they ever like?
No, because at the end he sees his ghost friends again,
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Shy McBride and the other guy.
Classic Shy McBride.
Definitely his one that I remember of him, his most like loose role. He's usually like the principal, the chief of police, something like that. And this one he's like really having fun. He's a young man.
Yeah,
Was,
yeah. It's like it reminds me of his role in Undercover Brother. It's like the only two like comedic ones I can really think of.
but even in that, he was like the chief. You know,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was like
yeah,
the
true.
leader. He was like this one. He's just like, hey man, kill these dudes. But he's still yelling at people in the way only Shy McBride can. What were your thoughts on the movie? Broad, broad thoughts. Man, I'm all choked up. I got my tea here, but it's not kicking. Come on,
Mm,
get this phlegm out of here. I don't want to be coughing into the mic. But yeah,
for sure.
early broad thoughts on the movie.
Um, interesting. Uh, Interesting for sure. I saw this movie back when it came out, or maybe when it came to video or whatever, and I somewhat enjoyed it at the time. I, I was and am a big fan of Michael J. Fox, so that's one of the reasons why I saw it at the time. And I really liked the effects stuff at the time. Coming back to it, I don't know, 25 years later or whatever. Um, there's some enjoyable stuff. I kind of like seeing Michael J. Fox play a scuzzy character. I don't really think he has a lot of those roles in his career. Um, but yeah, other than that, like there's some cool stuff in it, but I think it could be it's a fun movie, but forgettable in some ways.
For sure. It's a wild and zany movie. And I think there's a lot around the movie that makes it really important. So Peter Jackson had done this movie, Heavenly Creatures, a biographical, psychological drama film written by Peter Jackson and his partner Fran Walsh. Uh, that dealt with um, kind of supernatural things, I believe. Like it was a really, really well received movie, especially compared to this one. Um, yeah, about these girls in this boarding school actually, and it was like this real intense psychological drama. So when they were writing that, they came up with the idea for Frighteners and wrote that. That script and treatment went to Robert Zemeckis, which when you watch this movie, it's clear the Zemeckis influence. Like it's really
For
zany
sure.
in a way. The comedy is like super broad and like slapstick, which is very Zemeckis. You know, from Back to the Future, from all his work at the time. That's like his sensibility more than Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
But as they developed the movie, it was decided that Peter Jackson should direct it. That it should be the follow up to Heavenly Creatures. But the key part here is that Peter Jackson had just started WETA, WETA, which is
Yeah.
a special effects house. So the Frighteners, I think, in a lot of ways became the first big test for WETA Digital. It's important to know that Peter Jackson's next movie was Lord of the Rings.
With some of the most groundbreaking special effects and makeup work and design work all done by Weta Digital, right?
Exactly. So if you're like, and Peter Jackson apparently was a big Tolkien fan, a big Lord of the Rings fan. So he wanted to do those movies. And I don't know his thinking. I haven't looked up interviews, but I'm pretty sure he was like, the only way I can do them is if I find a way to do the effects. Once the technology catches up, and obviously it had by like 2000, he was able to do it. Frighteners really, I think, in a lot of ways is a test case for that. And also, if you're a studio and a guy's like, I want to do a Lord of the Rings trilogy, you look at his career, it's like, well, there's some good psychological dramas here. It's little indie movies. And you want to do what? And he's like, well, I'll do all the effects too. So we don't even
Right.
have to outsource that. You don't even have to create them because they didn't exist. It's like, I'm actually doing all of that. And look, we just did the Frighteners. Look at all these ghosts. Look at what we did. And we're gonna shoot in New Zealand, so that's gonna be cheaper because that's where my house and all my stuff is and my studio. It's a package deal. And they're like, well, nobody else is doing it. We really don't know if this is gonna work or not, but we do know that Lord of the Rings is one of the best selling fantasy novels of all time. Sure, give you a shot.
For sure. I think one thing that was really interesting I was reading about this movie over this past week was that it had, if not the most, almost the most, is what something I kept seeing a bunch of places. Most amount of special effects shots that had been done in any movie up to that point,
Up to that time, yeah.
which is pretty incredible.
Because it has all these ghosts, and they're in most of the movie. There's a ghost somewhere in the scene, and it has multiple ghosts. So there's just
Right.
ghosts all the time. So there's a lot of special effects work to make that happen. And then the ghosts are interacting with people, they're killing people, they're helping people. Like really, when I was watching it this time and thinking about all of this and it leading to Lord of the Rings, I was like, yeah, you can see all the extra work that had been put in that hadn't existed in movies before, especially when we just watched Hocus Pocus, which was like all practical effects, 94 that movie came
Right.
out. So you
And like
see
3
the
years earlier.
difference. Yeah. You can really understand the limitations that Hocus Pocus had and see how the Frighteners responds to those kind of limitations. Before the before CGI was just like you can do anything, it was like this is how you do what you would have done practically, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's interesting too in that regard because like there's a lot of plasticky effects in this movie. It is what it is. Like we said, it was kind of the first to ever do some of the things that it's doing. But like, there's a lot of textures, especially like one of the ghosts, the Grim Reaper can like get in the walls and get underneath carpet, and some of those like more fabricy type textures look pretty plasticky, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is like, yeah, they were doing it, right? This was that test case, like you're saying, to say, hey, we would have done this before physically. We would have done it captured in camera somehow. But
Well,
digital can do this and it'll get better over time.
no, I wonder if this one is a case of like we wouldn't have done this movie before. Too many
Yeah,
ghosts. You know what I mean? Like
for
it wouldn't have
sure.
been fun. It wouldn't have been a lot of things. And this is like now look at what we can do. The stories that we couldn't thought we couldn't tell. Like Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have a way. That's kind of what I took from it, I think.
One thing that, as you're talking about this, right, and some of the things I was reading about just some of the effects work and stuff, it also strikes me, I've been really in watching a lot of Star Wars recently. So it also strikes me that this is all in the run up to the prequel series as well, dropped in 99. So I feel like this is some of those things that like I wonder if like Peter Jackson is kind of watching George Lucas, who at this time has his own studio, has his own digital effects company, and is making those prequel movies all in house out of his own pocket, really. I
For
wonder if
sure.
that's a situation where like somebody watching someone do something and then saying, like, how can I do that? Like, oh,
I think that's 100% the case.
you know what I mean?
I think that's 100% part of the thinking behind this. It's like, dang, George did what? Oh, wait, you can just do this? Well, we can't get
Right.
them. We can't hire them. So maybe we can just
Right.
do that, do our version of that. You
Right.
know,
It's not like he's a situation where literally George Lucas, $140 million for, I think it was for one of the prequels, if not all of them individually, but like it's $140 million movie. He financed it basically out of pocket, right? Out of Lucasfilm pocket. So it's not like Peter Jackson's in that regard where he can do that, but he can certainly like maybe mimic some of the things with Weta as to what George is doing over at Lucasfilm and ILM.
and it says the budget for Frighteners was 26 million.
That's
I don't
incredible.
know. Maybe it went over a little bit or not, but it's not, for the amount of special effects, you still would think 50 million or something, so they still got
Yeah.
to find a way to get it done. Um, Probably cheaper than another studio would have, you know, and that
Yeah. That
that
I'm
matters a
so
lot.
good. Yeah, that makes me think of like, not every now and again nowadays, or even with over the past 5 to 10 years, you'll see a movie that has like pretty great special effects and somebody will be like, they made it for 80 million. And you're like, how? And that almost sounds like the 96 version of that.
Yeah, or like the Creator now movie, The
Right.
Creator. That's really like, oh, I think it's Gareth Evans. Is that the guy?
Ed Evans or Edwards. I think there's two
Yeah.
of them. I think there's two Gareths.
But everybody's like, how did he make this? It's a $150 million movie. He made it for 80 million. Gareth Edwards. You're right.
Okay. The other one is the dude who did the Raid movies.
Right.
I always confuse the two.
So yeah, but the movie itself is still interesting and plays on a lot of tropes with ghost movies that I think are cultural and even cross-cultural. We
Mm.
talked about how like there's not a lot of Black witch movies despite witchery being like big in black people's mythology, African mythology. Ghosts, again, we were talking about supernatural and superstitions and how people dealt with things before what we would call modern science. And ghosts are a big part of that. I mean, ghosts might be the oldest, like, supernatural figure in in the human imagination. You know, like
Yeah,
as soon as
I
somebody
would.
dies, it's like, what happened? Where are they now? They're talking to me? You know?
I think it's probably, yeah, like you said, that first question, right? This person is dead. Where are they now? And I'll point people's direction if they're interested to a documentary on Netflix called Cave of Bones. It's actually about not human, not Homo sapiens human, but actually another early human called Homo naledi, and they found that these early human ancestors were burying their dead. And anyways, I won't talk about the whole thing, but
We
it
gotta give
just
us more
opens
than
up.
that, though. We bury
So,
our dead now. What was the interesting
so
part?
well, it's kind of the earliest example that we have of anyone
Um,
burying anybody, and also they've like left like little trinkets and things around the dead. So it's kind of proof that even before modern humans, there were other humans who had some idea that when people died, it was not the end. It's really fascinating documentary. Check it out. But like the point being is, it might even be older than human beings.
yeah,
That story.
yeah. That's thing. What's it called again?
Cave of Bones. Cave of Bones on
Cave
Netflix. I
of
think it
Bones.
came out like a month ago or something.
So, anything supernatural is always going to be like, have a lore, and people are going to be like, what? In the sense of like, is this real? What is
Mm-hmm.
real? Something's real about it. I think that's maybe even the human inclination. It's like, something's real about it, you know? So that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. My broad thoughts on the movie, kind of getting to it now, kind of similar. It was zany, it was silly. Then it got really serious. It's
It
like
does.
the end of it
Yeah.
is like just a straight action movie in a way that kind of dragged on, I think, a little bit, but still had a kind of a pretty satisfying like finale for like the way they actually ended it, where the two ghosts were dragged, were eaten by this devil serpent thing and taken to
Mm-hmm.
hell, more or less, or whatever. Hard to really know exactly what was happening there. They don't really explain it, but you just get the imagery of what's happening.
Yeah. They don't really like break down like the cosmology of that universe. Like everyone knows in hell there's a giant serpent. Like they don't tell you that stuff.
It's funny because this movie could have easily been, and this is already a short movie. It's 110 minutes. It wasn't like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour thing.
The sweet spot.
It's not quite 2 hours, but it still could have been like 20 minutes cut. And I don't think it was all just special effects. I think they wanted to tell like kind of a complex story. And it was like somewhat of a murder mystery at the beginning for like the first hour. Then it takes him that long to kind of get into it and finally start to unravel it. Then they unravel it pretty quickly in like just a couple scenes. But then it's like another like 40-minute final sequence where we get to this house and we find out who the killer actually is, what the relationship is, and like and then like a 20-minute, 30-minute battle sequence with this ghost and his human kind of a natural
Partner.
born killers thing. It was like a serial killer. All right, so here's the basic story of the movie, like
Get
super
into it.
basic, not plot by plot. This guy, Frank, Michael J. Fox character, he as we said in the log line, he gets in an accident like years before. As a result of that accident, his wife dies, R.I.P. But he gets the ability to see ghosts. Come to the present of the movie, it's like, I don't know, 5 years later, a few years later. But he uses a ghost to con people. That's what the log line said. But what he does is the ghost will go and haunt somebody's house, but he sends them. He's like, go haunt this person's house, and then he comes and does like a goofy exorcism, and the ghosts leave, and that's his job. That's how he makes a living. Him and these ghosts setting people up, and some people in the town believe him, or they believe him when the ghosts start messing stuff up in their house and moving chairs. It's very exorcist in that way. What the ghosts do,
Yeah.
they're objects in the house. They don't inhabit anybody, but they're like floating chairs and breaking stuff and just haunting your house. Then he comes in with some fake holy water and he's like, get out of here. And then they like, okay, we'll see you later, Frank.
Right.
And the ghost is gone. But while this is happening, some other ghost who dresses like the Grim Reaper, like a huge robe with a scythe, is killing people and carving numbers into their head before he kills them. And only Frank can see this. So he's basically trying to uncover the mystery of who this ghost is and how he can stop this ghost that's killing people. Bunch of random stuff happens. There's this really weird FBI agent character who's
Yeah.
complete comedic relief, but is also like super creepy and strange. Feels very
Yeah.
Zemeckis,
For
kind of
sure.
irrelevant to the plot. And other than that, he's an obstacle for Frank to have to deal with. So skip ahead about an hour and a half, nearly, and we find out that the killer is an old serial killer who's able to kill people as a ghost. And then there's this creepy old lady and daughter, and they have a really weird relationship. It's a grown daughter, not like a kid, an adult woman. But we find out she is the serial killer's former lover, and she's kind of helping him carry out these kills, or she's like his muse. And when it's
Mm-hmm.
all uncovered, she's like, we can finish these people off together. And she's just as crazy as him, and they both try to kill Frank and the last two alive people in the movie. And their whole thing is just like they want to be the most notorious killers. They just get off on killing people. He even says like, we get more murders in Gacy, more murders
Right.
than this serial killer and that serial killer. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. She pulls out a shotgun.
It does. She does basically say it that way too.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
She was kind of a mystery in the movie because they make you think that her mom is like controlling her, but the truth is she's being controlled by this ghost or is in cahoots with this killer ghost.
Yeah, there was definitely some like psycho vibes to like the relationship with her and her mother in that old house.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. They pulled from that. But for this movie, like with the ghosts, first there's the idea of that ghosts are on Earth, right? And I think in a lot of ghost projects, thinking about like The Sixth Sense as a big example, where ghosts are still here because there's unfinished business. That's a common thought about ghosts. Not even like just even trope or even like a white culture thing. That's human to think that, oh man, my grandmother's still here watching over me, or she wants me to patch up some old relationship or find
Mm-hmm.
her buried necklace and give it to my mom, her daughter, to heal that. That is like such a common thing
Mm-hmm.
in almost every culture.
I guess you know I think I know, not to try to make it too logical and take the spirituality away from it, but I think I have my ideas as to why that's such a common human story. I think we are really good at externalizing things. So even if I have a urge or a feeling that I need to patch up this old relationship, it makes it a lot more meaningful if my dead grandmother tells me to do so, right?
Right.
But I guess my question becomes, like, for you, where do you think some of that kind of that feeling, that sense that we're these things are outside of ourselves and we're being directed to do so, where do you think maybe that comes in with humanity?
And, I'm not, nobody's sure, obviously. I don't want to just be like, oh, I'm not sure. But I think it's like it's just hard. We're not really equipped to deal with death,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Even animals, I believe, like when your dog, loses a loved one,
Mm-hmm.
like mopes around for the rest of its life, it still have happy times. You still can be happy and live your life when you lose someone, but you never fully lose them, right? They're always a
Mm-hmm.
part of your conscious and subconscious. And I think as somebody's voice exists in your head and that presence exists in your spirit, it can feel like they're a living part of you. And then there's the whole like getting like metaphysics and some of the other ideas, like people never really die, nothing ever ends, really, these kind of ideas. And as a, as human beings, in the way that we're all connected, whatever way that is, nothing terminates those connections. So when people talk about, or when we think about the spirit or the soul, it's like that's really at a minimum, that's the part that never leaves, that never leaves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all just feel or believe that one way or another, whether you're religious or not, spiritual or not. You feel like you can obviously feel like, and the closer somebody was to you, and even not close, I mean, people will be like, yeah, man, Michael Jackson was just chatting me up on my balcony last night. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like
Right.
my dad or my sister, or I ate my twin in the womb. It can be like, yo, I was kicking it with Cleopatra came and was like, yo, you need to start getting your life together.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know?
Start selling this shea butter. Start that business, my guy.
Yeah. And then when we talk about heavier concepts like multiverse kind of things, multiple dimensions, or
For sure.
even getting into things like string theory and those kind of things, it's like everything just exists on different planes of existence, or different planes or different dimensions, fourth dimension, you die, you go to the sixth dimension, that kind of thing. And death is the great unknown. There's no way to know. There's no way to experiment, or at least we don't have it now. Maybe one day there will be something like that's like an experiment that people can grab a hold of, and say,
Mm-hmm.
there's some evidence here in a way that can be widely accepted. But until that point, really, like nothing can be false. You know what I mean? Nothing you believe about it can be false. It may not
Yeah.
be true or not, but I can't say it's false because I haven't like been dead for a couple years and came back. Even people with near death experiences, it's like not long enough. You know what I mean? And it's also one person's account. It's like a lot of things that make it not trustworthy enough. But
Including the definition of dead, right?
sure,
Like, we don't even necessarily know what that definition is. So to say this person was clinically dead for 10 minutes, like, what does that even mean?
what does that
You
even?
know,
Yeah,
I think that's interesting. One thing that I've was thinking of even just last week, we were talking about a project I've been working on. I won't get into that here, but it deals with a lot of like some of that stuff that is outside of like normal observable space and time, right?
yeah,
And I was just thinking about and listening to some stuff about even how this is an experience that everyone has had, how when another human being is staring at you from behind your back or from a place that you can't see, you get the feeling and you can often look into the direction that that person is at when you don't even know it. And that's like a proven feeling. It's been tested many times, and even the cognitive researchers who research and test that have no idea why it exists. They just know that it does.
yeah,
So there are things that we all experience every day that are still yet beyond our ability to explain. So if something small like that exists, then yeah, it really opens possibility up for just about any goddamn thing.
yeah. It's crazy to think about like creation, whether you know believe in a Big Bang or whatever, but the idea that we're all created from the same things and there's a connection there that's unseen, almost intangible, that lets you know something like that, or you get the
Mm-hmm.
even a heightened feeling. You can be in a calm situation and all of a sudden feel fear,
Mm-hmm.
and then something can happen, and you're like, "Did I know that was going to happen?" But you almost, you know, the idea of a spidey sense kind of
Yeah,
that I think we
like
all can
it's
have when like
something there.
you feel something getting tense, and you can feel other people's emotions. You can be like, "Oh wait, yeah, you're sad. I can tell you're sad," or you know, without somebody saying something, or even kind of looking at them, you can just be in a room and be like, "It just got really tense."
Yeah,
What is
I
the
was just gonna
feeling of
say.
tension in the air? You know?
I was just gonna say we've all had that situation where we walk into a room and clearly something just happened, and
Right.
it's awkward in there, and you even have to be in there very long to just pick up on it, even when people are like pretending to be cool,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We all know that feeling. You can just not to you overutilize that term vibes, but there's something there.
The
You're
vibes are
catching
off.
the vibe. You know what I mean?
But then there's the idea quickly of oh man, first the existence of ghosts, and then that ghosts have something to do on Earth.
Mhm.
So like your physical life is over, but there's something within those connections that you still have to do. And then there's also this thing of like ghosts haunting an area.
Mm.
Like the ghosts in this movie are just in this town.
Yeah, they got free range pretty much.
But like if you're a ghost, do you travel the world? And now a lot of stories put limitations. Like there's this good show called Ghosts on CBS
Yeah.
right now, and those ghosts can only go within a certain radius of where they died. If they go try to go outside of that radius, there's like a invisible force field that bounces them back. They can't go further. So a lot of stories create something that explains why ghosts don't just wander the earth. And in
Mhm.
this one, like he goes to the cemetery and all those ghosts are like just in their graves and they just pop up and like, hey man, what
Yeah,
you
it's
doing
like an
over here?
apartment building.
Yeah, it's a ghost complex.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do wonder about that and the idea of ghosts. Like your dead grandfather has to stay in his room. Why does he has to stay in his room forever? You
Yeah, for
know?
sure.
Why are ghosts bound to an area? Because it seems like a psychological thing, a psychological barrier. But would ghosts be bound by the same restrictions of a brain that humans are?
You
I
know,
mean, it's whatever you decide. It's a fictional. These are
right?
fictional stories, you
Yeah,
know.
right. Is are they just trapped emotions that are like embodied, or what
Mm,
are they? One thing I can say is, if I die and then find myself here on this world in some sort of form that is beyond space and time, and yet I cannot leave space and time of
yeah,
like the small town that I'm in or whatever,
yeah.
I'm be mighty pissed, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Gonna be haunting,
I'm gonna be
moving
haunting the
books left
shit
and
out of
right.
people.
Yeah,
That's how. Is that how poltergeists are formed? Like you're like, finally, I'm done. I get to go visit Paris like I always wanted to and never could because I never had the money. So I'm gonna float over there, and then you get like a 5 feet past your front door, and you're like, boom, zap back into the house, and then you're
yeah.
just like, I'm about to tear shit up.
You're like, no, 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 not like this, not like this.
Not like this.
Yeah, ghosts are pissed, because
Oh,
they're
you would
still
have
here.
to be because
Because
you're still exactly because you're still here.
you're still here and you can't do anything. You can't
Yeah.
really do anything. You can't even change clothes and keep up with fashion. No ghost. Any ghost story, the ghosts wear the same thing every time. You can't change clothes. You can't have sex. You can't earn money. You can't build a legacy. You're just floating around.
Well, that's interesting because the ghosts in this movie can have sex, and it's done in a very creepy way.
it was very creepy, very ghost
Super
rapey.
creepy, very rapey. Not cool. Not
But
cool.
the ghosts in the TV show Ghosts can have sex too, which is
That's true.
just a plot device, I think, to make the show because it's easy jokes in the show. Like, why can ghosts have sex?
I love.
Super
I'm a
horny
big fan
ghost.
of the Super Horny Ghost.
Why
I'm a
are
big
you
fan of that
horny as a
show.
ghost?
And I love the one dude, like the guy with no pants, how he's always like he can like press one button on a computer at a time. It takes
Yeah,
so much effort. Anyways,
yeah,
go
it's a
watch
good
Ghost,
show.
folks.
Watch
Check it
Ghost.
out.
Uh, so yeah, ghosts are just a really funny um characters set of tropes or whatever to to use in movies. And the idea of ghosts killing living people is something most ghost movies, um, you know, even the movie Ghost. I'm saying the word ghost
So much.
so much on this pod. Apparitions. I don't know. Maybe you need to use another word.
Phantasms.
But I think that is key to any ghost story is that they can interact slightly with the real world. They can move a book, they can move a desk, they can touch your heart and kill you.
Right. They can open up all the cabinets in your kitchen
They're
really
definitely
fast
open.
and
Yeah.
scary.
Ghosts are 2-year-olds.
They really do like fucking with the things in your kitchen cabinets for sure.
And then it's how do you deal with them? How do you deal with ghosts, man?
I feel like that's another thing that like is like there's so many different like cultural stories about like how you can get rid of a ghost or exorcise a ghost or whatever. um that's one of in like ghost movies or ghost stories, right? It really is like whatever you want it to be, right?
Right.
Like sometimes it's like spreading salt around or some other thing, but it's kind of like whatever you need for the story.
Yeah, like in this one, the ghosts were like a metaphor for him. And they're almost always a metaphor for like something in your past that you can't let go of
Right.
that's still hanging around, you know? And him being in this accident was a big thing. They borrowed some things from Ghostbusters, which again, a comedy movie, but super Halloweeny because Ghostbusters had great costumes that you
Zemeckis,
could
right?
cosplay.
is
No,
is Ghostbusters?
Ghostbusters was Reitman,
That's right, that's right,
the
that's right.
original Ghostbusters. Ivan
It's
Reitman.
got a very similar like feel, even like with the ghosts and the like grotesqueness is not the right word, but like the physicality of it,
Yeah, the grotesque of like the imagery.
the imagery. Yeah,
And then Ghostbusters 2, I'm glad I remembered that. It's like you can't do a podcast about ghosts and not mention the Busters.
yeah, for sure.
Them Busters. Or this other really good movie with Robert Downey, Heart and Soul.
Mm,
There's often but friendly ghosts, Caspers, you know,
for sure.
ghosts, or even if they're not friendly, they're not mean. They may have a little attitude, but they're like here to help you. And then mean ghosts, there's really like a manipulative ghost. The mean ghosts are just like mean. They're just killers
Mm-hmm.
or demonic or something. Um, it's really it really makes me interested in how ghosts are used in these stories now.
Yeah, I mean the metaphor call out is pretty important. I would say to the point where if you're writing a ghost story and it doesn't have a metaphor in it, you should probably you should probably attend to that. But yeah, it
That,
definitely is always some sort of metaphorical thing.
that would be hard to do, huh? It's like,
It'd
yeah,
be pretty hard. It's almost an
just a
interesting
ghost running
writing
around that
challenge.
means nothing.
It means absolutely nothing, just causing terror, and not even necessarily real terror, just havoc.
Yeah.
Um,
You would have to be
but
purposely
yeah,
playing against the tropes, you know, you'd have to be really clever.
yeah, you'd have to be super intentional about it. So much would come back into it even without even thinking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like I don't know. It is really interesting to think about the ways that ghosts are used, and then like I even think about like what qualifies as a ghost if we're talking about like a genre of movies, right? Like there's a movie from a few years ago, which is, I think, a genuinely scary movie. I really only like horror movies if I think that they're very well written.
Hmm.
It's called The Babadook.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and I think The Babadook is great. I'm not the first person to say so, but at the same time, it's like, is the Babadook a ghost? You know what I'm saying? Is like there's a real like, is the boogeyman a ghost? There's a real like there's like certain of these Halloween character creatures that kind of don't fit neatly into the genres we talked about: vampire, werewolf, ghost, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so that's always pretty interesting too. And then like
Is Freddy a
we
ghost?
didn't really, is Freddy, if I would say Freddy has to be a ghost.
Freddy's a
Is
ghost.
I mean Jason a ghost? Jason's kind of a ghost, bro.
Yeah. So physical though. Like everything
So
he does
physical.
is in the real world realm. And that
But didn't they say he died in the
they say he
original one?
died in the camp, right? Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought so. Like I've honestly never seen all of those movies or anything.
Well, it's
Uh,
also crazy. I think Ghost more than any other like Halloween figure. Most Ghost movies are not scary movies. There's a lot
mm,
of thrillers and actually a lot of like family or comedies, like Casper.
like Ghost Dad. I mean,
Yeah,
like
like Ghost Dad and
I cannot remember it, but there was definitely, while watching this, some black
uh,
movie that I thought of, and I can't remember what it was, but it was also like not a scary movie, but just about ghosts, right? I think that's a good point. There's a lot of that stuff.
yeah. Even going through a list of like these are the best ghost movies. It's like, wait, that's a ghost movie? They like Beetlejuice is on the list. It's like, oh yeah, I guess they are
They,
dead. Everybody's dead in Beetlejuice. They're all
they are
the undead.
ghosts.
Are zombies
That's a
ghosts?
good one. I mean, are they? I
Zombies
always
are
think
kind
about
of
that
ghosts because they're dead.
because
They're
like
the
zombies are
undead.
also kind of mummies too. Like zombies are weird because zombies are kind of mummies,
But mummies are
kind
ghosts
of,
because you died.
are vampires ghosts. I mean,
Vampires
they're
are kind
kind
of
of
ghosts.
ghosts.
Is ghost the overarching category
Did
of
we just
supernatural beings?
did we just blow this shit wide open?
It's like ghosts and monsters, but all demons are like ghosts.
It's all kind of ghosts. Wow, the
Other thing about
frighteners, man.
other thing that makes this movie really stand out is back in the day when you had physical media. You get this DVD, you get this laser disc. There was a 4 hour behind the scenes documentary
Mhm.
about how they made the effects, how they made the movie. It's twice as long as the freaking movie. This
For
was the
sure.
selling point. I had this DVD for a long time. I don't have it anymore, but I had it for a long time. And I bought it because of that documentary. I didn't see
Hmm.
this in theaters, but back in the day when you're reading magazines and like the Frighteners DVD with all this behind the scenes, and I was interested in filmmaking, and obviously that became my thing. But I was like, I want to see that doc. I need to see that behind the scenes. In the era
Yeah,
of like buying DVDs because they had a director's commentary, because they had great special features, and not just like 2 minute blooper reel or they cheat
bro. It
us
was
so much now. We don't get nearly what we used to get with the special features. And like some
bro
movies would
when
have
they
like
stopped.
special features. It's like we did a 4 hour doc. We did a 20-minute thing with, I think Crimson Tide has like a behind the scenes. And you see Denzel getting in the character and Gene Hackman like working through lines and stuff. It's like that was shit.
No, 100%. When there was definitely like a sweet spot. I posted something on Instagram this week about the Matrix when it first came out on DVD, and like so many behind the scenes things. I mean, the next Peter Jackson movie after this, right, The Lord of the Rings, obviously that was a huge selling point of those DVDs, just the behind the scenes and all that. So there was definitely a huge just time period when that stuff was like a real like add-on benefit or kind of the selling point, to your point.
Yeah.
And so I remember when it first started happening, but even more so now, like you just get these discs and they have nothing on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the
Just the
special
movie.
features is just like a trailer for another movie put out by the studio or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what did I do? Like, what happened here? What have you done to me? You
What have you
know?
done to me? I hate it. I hate it. And I think the other thing, this is my last thing about, and I'll always complain about the loss of it, but it was such a like they lost money when they said just stream everything, you know?
Mhm.
It's like that was a loss of revenue. You could actually make money over the course of a film. A studio could with the DVDs, you know? So the fact that like Best
Mhm.
Buy was just like, we're not doing DVDs anymore. It's like, that's not the greatest thing, you know. It's not, it's not great. It's a revenue
And it's
stream. Don't technology was a mistake. It cancels so many revenue streams, and then we're like, oh, why can't people make money? It's because everybody found a shortcut through an app, and now we don't have to have the thing.
totally. And it's interesting too, because like as you're talking about this, like I think of like the few streamers who do like
Do do
behind the scenes do yeah, I know. I was gonna keep moving forward.
nice.
Noise. But like that do the behind the scenes stuff. It's like Disney Plus is a big one, right? Like, and I
Yeah,
think a lot of that has to do with Lucasfilm, right? Lucasfilm's been doing behind the scenes material since like 1981. It was always kind of a big part of what they did. And a lot of their like a lot of their Star Wars shows and things like that all will have like multiple kind of behind the scenes little special featurettes on the service, but that's not common on the streaming world. So I do think it is a big loss. I think, especially for movie fans and especially for like people like you and me, who when these things were coming out in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, like you and I during that time period were having these movie conversations. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? We've known each other that long. And that gave us things to connect on and to like, I
But
think
think
that's a
about it. Like,
loss.
I'm expecting a kid. I don't own
Mm-hmm.
every Disney movie.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things I would buy or rent,
Right.
but a lot of them I would buy to show my kid over
Buy
the
a lot
next
of them.
6 years. You know, it's like, oh, you four or whatever, we gotta watch Toy Story. Oh, man, we gotta show my kids Sleeping Beauty.
Right.
And like, yeah, I can subscribe to Disney, but that subscription is one tenuous. I can also would cancel at any time. So like, I could do like, man, this month, next 3 months, we're gonna watch Disney stuff when the kid is at whatever
Right.
age, and stop and be like, that's it. We ain't watching no more Disney.
Right. So you
I mean, that's
spent
an
what
extreme
not
example. That's an extreme example, but as an example, or also like when you have the app, you have everything. But if I had the movie, I just have the one thing. But that means they have to continually host everything. You know what I mean? So their cost is way higher than the value. You know what I mean? And subscriptions, there's only a finite number of subscriptions you can get,
Mhm.
not only based on the
Definitely.
number of people in the world, but the number of people that are actually going to be interested in subscribing. But like if I bought The Lion King, this would be at least my second time buying it. I know I had a copy when I was a kid. You know what I mean? So you don't
Probably
get,
too. You probably had a VHS and a DVD at some point.
no, I just had the VHS for a long time though.
Wow.
For a long, long time.
Wow.
I was slacking. But I don't know. We know that streaming doesn't make a lot of money, and we know that DVDs and VHS were a good supplementary income stream for these companies. That's really the point. But let's get
Makes me
into
even
that.
think about like
Go
the
ahead.
last thing I'll say about that is makes me think about the Disney Vault. You know what I mean? Like how they used to have that thing. We're reopening the Disney Vault to
Yeah.
have Snow White on DVD for the
Yeah.
next 2 months.
It,
And then
it
we're
was
closing the
like
vault again.
it
You
was
know what I
like
mean?
surprise, reopening the vault. It's a magical time. Here it comes. You're not ready for this. Boom, boom, boom. You know, they would
Right.
always
It
suck you in
was
with that, you know?
it was a real like marketing thing that really only Disney just did
Yeah. It
for
was
a
genius.
long time.
We're reopening the vault.
Reopening the vault.
Fantasia. Was that the
Fantasia.
movie? Yeah.
Yeah, Fantasia definitely got the vault reopened for Fantasia for sure.
Let's cast a little bit.
All right, cool.
Oh, man.
So I
Right.
got like five. I got Frank. I got the FBI dude. I got the killer, uh, the leading actress, and the killer actress. That's what I got.
Okay, I'll just follow you. I don't have all of those, but
Okay,
I got a few, and I got this list of young comedians or black comedians that I want to kind of add, people that we haven't used that I want to go ahead and cast. So I'll pick from this list. Let's start with Michael J. Fox. That's the
for
lead, man.
sure.
Let's go top down.
All right, me first.
Go ahead.
Cool, Martin Lawrence.
You're casting it from the time.
I really wasn't sure, but I think
You
I'll
want
stick with the thing.
50-year-old, 60-year-old Martin Lawrence?
Nah, I think I'm gonna go with Martin Lawrence from the time. I wasn't sure. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah, Martin Lawrence from the time, maybe.
Well, it's interesting. I like to cast. I like when we do the current casting, but it gives a different flavor to do casting of the time. Something that Brandon would do a couple times, kind of started it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is always interesting to look back and be like, oh yeah, 1996, I think Frighteners came out. Like what would that look like? A young Martin would be crazy. I went with DC Young Fly.
I think that could be good.
It would be so different, and he's such like a high energy character. So I kind of went against the and Michael J. Fox was actually kind of played down in this movie. Um,
Super.
yeah, and it wasn't written for him. It was written for Zemeckis to direct, and Zemeckis called up his great buddy, who they had made great hits with before. Like this would be perfect for Michael J. Fox. So it makes sense, but it's kind of like the more serious character in the movie. So I want to make that character maybe a little more comedic, or like naturally comedic. Maybe he's not doing bits, but DC is like just such a big personality.
It is interesting though, because Michael J. Fox usually does have like a very like anxious energy about him in his
Yeah,
performances,
yeah.
and he doesn't really have that in here. I mean, other than when he's being like chased.
This isn't one of his like great performances because I've really, I've really seen him do like some really, really great stuff. Even TV later in life, he's had some really good roles. So, but anyway, let's move on. Who do you want to do next? The alive girl, the girl,
Yeah, I can't
not the
remember her
girlfriend, but
name.
the lady friend who became
Yeah, who becomes like the girlfriend or interest or something. There's something going on there.
Lucy Linsky, played by Trini
Lucy. Yeah.
Alvarado.
Yeah, Trini Alvarado. Love that name. I was
Great
like, wasn't familiar with that actress, but great name when I was looking that up. Yeah. So Lucy, I'm gonna go Vanessa Williams.
name. Nice. I went Lacey Mosley, young
Lacey
black
Mosley. What's
actress. I'm going to tell you. She's
wow?
in a Black Lady sketch show,
Hmm.
and she was in the iCarly reboot
Hmm.
that just got canceled. But it did 3 or 4 seasons. She also hosts a podcast called Scam Goddess. She's also an improviser. You can see her performing with Amon at times.
Oh, sweet.
They're buddies. Lacey Mosley. Okay, you lead us the rest of the way. Tell me who else you got, and I'll just follow up.
All right. I'll go with the killer. Man, Johnny something.
Yeah, serial
Uh,
killer turned Grim Reaper,
Chris Tucker.
Johnny Bartlett. Okay, Chris Tucker. Yeah, you got to need somebody that can do big for that.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
definitely a young Chris Tucker.
Jake Busey has a crazy amount of like weird energy, so you definitely got to match that.
I'm going with D. Ray Davis. D. Ray.
Okay,
D.
yeah, for
Ray's been out
sure.
here for a long time, man.
D-Ray has been out here for a long
Hustling,
time.
man. From the shy. Shout out D. Ray Davis. I'm going with D. Ray. All right, who's next?
I'm gonna go with Killer Lady,
Uh huh.
the other Vanessa Williams.
Who's the other Vanessa Williams?
Isn't that isn't there Vanessa, like I always think of Soul Food, right? Isn't there Vanessa Williams, the Miss America person who like was in Soul Food, and then Vanessa
Yeah,
Williams who's in the show, the Showtime show,
Soul
Soul
Food?
Food, like the spinoff,
Maybe.
darker
Okay.
skinned lady, dreadlocks. I think her name's Vanessa Williams too.
Soul food TV show. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I can't. I'm pretty sure
No,
there's two
I
Vanessa.
think so. Yeah, there is a Vanessa Williams, Vanessa Estelle Williams.
Yeah, so she's the that's who I picked.
She was in the Soul Food TV show. She was in Candyman, the original Candyman,
She was, yeah,
New Jack City. She's kind of a '90s legend. New Jack City, Candyman, Drop Squad. Like those are three black classics. She might have been
for
the.
sure.
She had a small role in Like Mike. It says pharmacist. So,
Mm,
but I don't really know this actress very well.
she's I feel like she around like you were saying around that time period, that mid '90s. I mean, she was in a lot of things. She was definitely on the Soul Food show that I think that ran for a couple seasons, but she's been in a lot. She's like a black character actress. I feel like I see her in a lot of things, or have seen her in a lot of things.
I'm gonna go with Zainab Johnson, who is on the show Upload currently.
Mm-hmm.
Young black female comedian, really funny. I've seen her live a couple times on comic shows. Yeah, check her out, Zainab Johnson. Really funny, really funny. Who
Yeah,
else
super
you got?
funny on that show too.
Yeah.
Last guy I got is the FBI dude played so well by Jeffrey. Oh man, I'm Jeffrey Combs. Just Star Trek legend. That guy's like played every alien on Star Trek, done all the makeup work. Very weird character in this movie. I'm gonna go with Tony Todd just to go with a different type of person.
Yeah, Tony Todd.
I'd like to see
Nice.
Tony Todd be weird.
I'm gonna go with little known comic, maybe not little known, but not super well known. Jabuki Young White. Look him up, Jabuki Young White. He did a lot of voiceover work. He was on American Vandal, which was really actually a really good show. Only Murders in the Building. He had a small part, I think, in season 1. But yeah, and kind of like if you kind of follow comedy, when you look them up, or look them up, you'll see their face, and you'll be like, "That's a familiar face."
Mm,
Uh, but a face you'll probably see a lot more in the future.
epic, epic. You got any else? Anybody else?
No,
Yeah, I feel like the ghosts. You'll find those guys out.
yeah, I'm bringing Sean McBride back.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, you kind of got to when you think about it for sure. Is he
Think,
still going to be like dressed as the '70s dude?
yeah, he'll still be just in the 70s.
One thing I found really disturbing, I kind of forgot about with this movie, is just like how all the ghosts have like they almost have like tear tracks on their eyes, like they've been crying or
Mhm.
something leaking from their eyes. And yeah, just that thing alone, like I found really disgusting. Like I kind of forgot that there was that piece to their ghost makeup.
Yeah, they really did make the things like this is not a scary movie, but it is creepy to look at. Like
Yeah,
that's why it's really a Halloween movie because they made the ghosts creepy. They made how they move like it's funny and slapsticky, but it never strays too far from like this is kind of like this would be a terrifying thing
yeah.
to see any of
It
this
does
in
have
real
like a sorry. It does have like a weird, like you were saying, it gets kind of actiony at the end, but even more so, it gets kind of weirdly dramatic
yeah.
in a way that like really kind of loses a little bit of momentum uh, uh, there. But never have I seen an American town look so much like Wellington, New Zealand. I'll tell you that. Like just every time they
Right.
showed
They
like a
shot in New
long,
Zealand, right?
they definitely did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Every time they had like a big shot, there was like this huge bay out front. I was like, that is not America, my friend. But yeah,
I just kind of felt like it was like a Northwestern small town. I don't know where it was actually supposed to be, but I was like, in my mind, it was
I
like, oh, this is up in Delaware, Maine, or North Massachusetts or something.
Yeah, it definitely had them. If it was going to be anywhere like Maine, Vermont, sort of deal,
It kind of had those
or
Salem, almost the witch trial vibes, you know.
it did, which is funny because when I was reading like a little bit about the movie, the studio said that he could shoot in Wellington or could shoot in New Zealand so long as he made it look like a Midwest American town.
Yeah,
And being from the Midwest, it's like that is not a Midwest place, my friend. But it did have a Northeast vibe to it. I felt a
yeah.
little bit, but yeah. Ultimately, I guess the Frighteners fun to check out. I think more interesting just for the people who are like the film kind of historians
I
that
mean,
we've kind of addressed before.
100%. If you can buy it, if you can get to your library and rent a copy
Mm.
and watch the special features, if you're somebody that likes behind the scenes of movies, history of movies, or you want to make movies, that is worth at least a one-time viewing, at least. So
Yeah, I would agree.
that's my stance on this movie. We didn't talk so much about the whiteness, but ghosts are so like cross-cultural. Like that was the cultural thing of this movie. It's like, what do ghosts mean in society? And we got into that, you know.
Yeah,
So
for sure. I think there's something about Frank Bannister, Michael J. Fox's character, kind of like a kind of grubby everyman that you could kind of get into, but yeah, I think that probably the multiculturalness or the universality of Ghost is more on point.
yeah. All right. That's it. We'll see you guys
We did it.
next week, I think. Or yeah, probably. Our Halloween series is over. I'm pretty sure. I don't think we're doing another scary movie next week. But Halloween is like Monday or Tuesday, maybe. Actually, don't know. But by that point, you'll be over it. You're gonna go to your parties this coming weekend. You're gonna be dressed in crazy costumes, and then Monday will come and you'll be back to work.
For sure. For sure.
So we'll be on to something else. But this was enjoyable, and we will see you soon.